Hi, I'm Jack. This is the 7th video in this series about my A-Level Computer Science NEA. I scored 70 out of 70 for my project, and hopefully I can help you get a high score too. For my NEA, I decided to build a computer game with some basic AI based on an old abstract strategy board game. In this video, I'll be looking at the development section of the NEA. Now, the development section is the bit everyone thinks about when you think about the NEA. It's the bit where you actually do the coding, implement the design, and go through an iterative process. Now, this process allows you to show continuous development for iterations where rather than just building the whole project as one big blob, you focus on the software piece by piece, evaluating and testing smaller software components as you add them. Now, do note that with the OCR exam board, most of the marks in this section are not actually for the functionality of the code you produce, but for its maintainability, your evaluation of the progress you've made, and your iterative testing. So make sure to do this as you go. I would recommend having maybe 5 to 8 substantial iterations in this section. I actually have 10, but I probably didn't need all of those. So in my project, the first iteration was the GUI, basically just the intro screen and the game board, just drawing that to the screen. Then inputs, allowing you to actually interact with the GUI and the board. The third stage was validating moves to ensure you can only make legal ones, and then undoing moves, which is useful for the AI. The fifth stage was showing winning and losing screens, and after that I had the game timer. Stage 7 is implementing the AI, 8 is online connectivity, 9 is a hints button, and 10 was multi-threading so that the UI could run while the AI is running without freezing. So how do I allow each stage or iteration? Well, I start by giving an overview of what exactly I'm going to be doing in this iteration, and then a decomposition of what will be involved. I add any relevant success criteria, if applicable, going back to the table of success criteria you should have created in an earlier section. I then add some screenshots of the relevant code that I've added, and screenshots of the game in progress with any necessary explanations in between. After that, I have a testing table, as should again have been set out back in your design stage. In the first column, I list the items to test, the next column, how I will test them, the third column is what should happen when I test it, and the fourth column has the actual result, which is either a screenshot of my game or me just logging what happened. And the final column states where it's pass-fail. I chose to color code these green or red for easy identification. After this, I look at any sections that have failed the testing phase and go back over the code to fix the bugs. For each one, I explain what the issue was, what needs doing to fix it, and so a section of the code for the change part highlighted purple. You don't need to document every single tiny bug in your NEA, just keep the more interesting ones. But you do need to have some in there to show the process, at least in OCR. Don't bother including things like syntax errors where you just forgot a colon or misspelled something. Include complex and more interesting problems, for example, where your pieces always move one square to the left of where you actually clicked. Don't worry if none of this kind of errors actually come up naturally. So long as you can make it believable, you can just deliberately add them into your code, purely so that you can then fix them. Next, I have a before and after screenshot of the game, evidencing that the issue has now been resolved. I finish each iteration by evaluating how successful it was, discussing any challenges and talking about my next steps. It's then a case of repeating the whole process again and again for each stage of your program. Now, throughout this stage, I made sure that all of my code included well-written comments to explain the purpose of each class and function. I also used descriptive variable and function names to make it clear what they're referring to, and indented my code and left new lines between functions and classes to improve readability. I also separated my program into 4 different files and different classes and functions to make the class more modular, easier to alter, and easier to read. This is important later on because in the evaluation section, you'll be asked to talk about the maintainability of your code, and these are all things that you can use to talk about then. If you don't include them, you'll lose marks in that section. During the development process, I also had 2 stakeholder reviews. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about them now because I have a separate video on handling stakeholders, but I just wanted to remind you, don't forget to involve them throughout the development process. So that's the end of the 7th video in this series. There's a link to my NEA in full below if you want to check it out, and in the next video, I'll be looking at summative testing.